Hi guys, welcome to the 7th video of the Golang and CSRF project series. So I had to end the previous video a little quickly because I had to be somewhere. Now I'm back, now I have some time, so I'll start working on the middleware file, right? So here in your logic handler, in the previous video we stopped here. We did the restricted page / restricted routes. Now let's start working on login and register. So I think it's better to work on register first, and then we'll work on login, and then we'll work on logout. So I think these three functions we can take care of in this particular video. So this video could be more than 10 minutes easily. So here when you say get, right, now when you have get right on register route, you can actually do something with it. I mean, you don't have to just send hello to the register route. If it was just postman, we could have just said hello, right? But here since we also have a front end now, we can actually show something in the get register route. So we'll show the actual registration page. So we'll say templates dot render template w comma register ampersand templates dot register page and I've passed something else here, false comma empty string. So just don't worry about this as of now. Just understand what this is doing. You're passing your response, right, and then you're passing the template in this case, which is register. So it'll have access to register.template file. That's what it'll execute here, right? So that's what you're rendering right now. Okay, and that is it. I mean, we don't have to type anything else. That was it. Now let's start working on our post. So what do you mean by post? By post, you basically mean that somebody is submitting their form from the front end, right? And that means your request has a form. So you'll say parse form, and let's print out the form actually to our console. And while registering, the first thing that you do when you register a user, you check if that user already exists. So we need to do that. We need to say db.fetch user by username. This is a function that we'll be creating soon in our db file. As of now, it's not there. And here you'll say r.form, and inside that, so somebody who submitted their username in the form, we're accessing that, but you also need to do one more thing. You need to join it with an empty string. So we'll say strings dot join and username with an empty string, and here there's another closing bracket. All this function is doing is that it's fetching the user by username. You'll soon understand why we're doing this. Don't worry about it right now. All right. So we need to get this user. If anybody else is having this username, we want to get that. And we'll have 3 variables here. So we'll create this function in a way that it returns 3 different things. So it returns UUID as well, right? So firstly, if there was no error, then we'll say write header http.status unauthorized. If error is equal to nil, that means this is unauthorized for you. For this part to make any sense, I mean, you might be getting confused right now. That's because you've not seen this function. So for this to make any sense, we'll have to create this function in our db file. Let's go to a db folder, db.go, whatever db.go, And let's start creating the outlines of this file at least. So we'll say package db, and then you're going to import some things. So for importing, I'll need models. So I'll say github.com / Golang CSRF project / db / models. So I'll need the models here, and I'll need errors and log. Those are quite standard, and we'll need the bcrypt package. So we'll say golang.org /x /crypto /bcrypt. Okay, I'll create a variable called users. It'll be a map which will have a string and have models of user. And for now it'll be empty. Models.user, this basically, it has username, password and role. So we're saying that users is a variable which has username, password and role, and it's a map basically. Here we'll be creating a couple of functions. The first function that we'll create will be func store user. We haven't used this function yet, but we'll be soon using it, because when we register a user we'll have to store him, right? So I won't work on it right now, but in some time we'll have to work on this function. So for this function to be able to work properly, function properly, you will have to send it username, which will be string, password, which will be string, and role, which will be string. These three things you have to pass it so that it's able to create a user for you. And whenever a user is created, stored in the database, you return a UUID back, and if there's any issue, you'll get an error from there. So to create, actually let's not work on this function because it might just end up confusing you. So let's work on the function that we wanted to work on, which is fetch user by username. All right. But let me also create the outline of a couple more functions that we'll need in a while, but we won't work on them right now. We'll just work on the function that we want to work on, which is fetch user by username, but I'll just create the outline of a couple of more functions. So one function that I need is initDB. Another function that I need here is going to be delete user with capital D, sorry. Another function that I need here is going to be func fetch user by ID. Takes in some things, returns some things, and has a function definition. Then I have the function that I need to build right now, which is fetch user by username. It also has, it accepts some parameters, returns some values. And then just like store user, we also need a facility to store our refresh token. And we'll have a function to delete our refresh token. We'll soon use these functions and you'll understand properly what's happening here. Then you have a function to check refresh token. This, I mean, these look like they're big functions. They're very small. There's just one line function. They'll just have very small kind of a function definition. So don't get intimidated right now. Okay. Check refresh token. It will return a boolean. And we'll have a function to log the user in. We'll accept some things, return some things, and we'll have function definition. And we have two more very small functions. Don't get, like I said, don't get intimidated by these functions. These are going to be very small functions, like 1 or 2 lines each. That's it. So another very small function that we'll have is generate bcrypt hash, and another function we'll have is check password against hash. Returns an error when things go wrong. So this is it. Now you already know the function that we want to work on. It's fetch user by username. It accepts a username which is string and returns models dot user, returns a string and returns error. So let's see if that's compatible with what we're expecting it to. It returns the user model, the complete model of the user that it finds. It returns a string which is UUID and returns an error. So it's completely compatible with what we want it to do. Okay. So what you'll do here is you'll range over users and you'll say if v dot username is equal to the username that you've just passed to this function, then you'll return v, k and nil. So here you'll say for k and v. Okay, so you'll go through every single user and v will be that user, and in that there'll be a username property, and if that's equal to username, then you'll return that, obviously you'll return the that this user exists, right? So you'll return his unique ID, you'll return his complete value, the complete model of the user that you'll find, and you'll return nil for the error. And here you'll say return models dot user comma empty string and errors dot new user not found that matches the given username. So that means if there is an error, that's a great thing for us. We are expecting to see an error, because if there's an error, that means this username is not there. Then we can create a new user, right? And for registering the user. But if the user already exists, that means the error is nil. There's no error. Then it's a problem. Then just all you can do is, say that it's unauthorized. That's all you can say. All right. Now I think things would make a lot more sense to you, right? Now I think everything makes sense. So if the error is nil, then it's a problem. But if there is an error, that means that user actually exists. That user already exists in the database. That user does not exist in the database. Then we can create that user in the database. So let's start creating the user in the database. All right. So we'll say db dot store user. So like I said, that's why I didn't work on this function, because working on the function, the store user function before time might have confused you, but now I think you'll have more context. So we're going to use the db.store user function to actually store the user. So here we'll say strings.join, and again the same thing, r.form username, comma empty string, and we'll have to pass the password as well. So we'll say comma strings dot join r dot form password, comma, and here sorry, inside the this had to be inside, this bracket had to close here, and this bracket had to close here. I shouldn't have been a bracket, extra bracket here. Yeah, now everything makes sense. And comma, you'll pass that role. Alright, so in the stored user function, you're passing the username, password, and role. And let's see if that's what it's accepting as well. So it's accepting username, password, and role. Perfect. So it's completely compatible with how you want things to be. Alright. And before this, I think we'll have to tell Golang that our role is a basic user. Actually, I don't need the headphones anymore, so I'll just remove it. It can get tiring to just keep wearing the headphones for a very long period of time. And here, after you add the user, right, it gives you a unique ID. Or it can give you an error. So if error is not equal to nil, that means error is there, so we'll print out the error. http dot error w comma http dot status text 500 comma 500, and here you'll say log dot print ln uuid plus uuid. All right. Now that you've registered the user, we'll have to create the cookies. So I showed you, right? When you register the user, you get those cookies. To create the cookies, you'll have to say my.jwt, which is our file that we have created. We'll have to create new tokens. So in your my.jwt, you have create new tokens function already. So if you didn't understand, where we'd be using this function, I think now everything will make a lot more sense to you. We're using it in the register function. So we're creating new tokens. Okay. And here, as you know, we'll pass uuid comma role. All right. So here also in our my.jwt, you're passing uuid and role, and it's returning an auth token, refresh token, and CSRF token. 3 things it'll return. So that's like a very central function, right? So we're calling it central function, and we'll have to now capture whatever we're receiving from it in 3 different variables, as you've already seen. What are the 3 variables? Auth token string, comma refresh token string, comma CSRF secret, comma error. Great. Now that we have an error, we can handle the error. So we'll say if error not equal to nil, http dot error w comma http dot status text 500 comma 500. All right. So here is, now you know what you have to do. So you'll set auth and refresh cookies. You've already seen this function, right? We've already built it together. We're going to call this set auth and refresh cookies, and we're going to pass it all this stuff, right? The auth token and refresh token and all of that stuff. So it'll set the cookie for us. So to call this function, you need to pass w, which is the response writer, but you'll have to pass a reference, actually, the address, and you'll say auth token. So till now in this series, if you've had any questions like when are we using this function or this function, let's say, now we have started using these functions, so now I think everything will start making sense to you very, very fast. So that's why it's important to like stick around, because in the beginning itself I can't just explain everything to you in one go, but we create some utility function, and when we start using it, then everything starts connecting. So you have refresh token string. Okay, and after calling this function, you are saying w.header. Now you have to set the header and send your CSRF token dot set x CSRF token comma CSRF secret, and w dot write header http dot status. Okay, where O and K are both capital. So that is the whole register function, and I think everything now makes sense to you. Like, you've set your cookies, you've set your header, and you've sent a status OK. And that's what we had seen in the first video when we saw the demo of the product. That's what we saw. That's what you get back. For your default, we'll say write header http dot status method not allowed, because we have only get and post. If we're trying like patch and delete and all of those, we'll say status method not allowed. So if you're noticing, we're also, I mean, this format that I'm using, like, we are not using gin, but this format that we're using is also quite bulletproof, right? It's handling so many different things for us. And then you'll have your logout functions. Let's build our logout function, which is quite easy. So we'll say nullify token cookies, pass w and r. So if you were wondering what this nullify token cookies does, it basically makes the values 0 for auth token and refresh token, and it revokes your refresh token and sets the cookie with these new empty values. And this is only used for logging out. When you've logged out, you don't need to have cookies anymore. And here you'll also redirect to w comma r comma slash login page and 302 route. All right. So now I think you're feeling pretty confident, because you've used your set auth and refresh cookies, you've used nullify token cookies function already. This one you have not used yet. In your db.go, we have used fetch user by username function, right? Models, we've already used user and token claims many times. In templates, you've used the render template function. In myJWT, you've used the create new tokens function, and we've used, and which in turn create new tokens is in turn using create auth token and create refresh token string functions. So now I think everything is kind of coming together and everything is making sense. I'm pretty sure it's making sense for you, right? So I will continue the rest of the code in the next video. We'll work on our login function, and where is it? Where's the login? Yeah, so we'll work on our login function, and we can also work on our auth handlers as well. So those are the things we'll try and tackle in the next video. So thanks a lot for watching. Do subscribe to this channel so that you come to know when the next video of the series comes out. And I have more than 100 videos on Golang on my channel, so do check them out if you're learning Golang. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.